Our News from the Hill segment tonight, President Trump signed an executive order this week rolling back Obama-era climate change regulations. Trump initiated an immediate review of the Clean Power Plan, which restricts greenhouse gas emissions at coal-fired power plants. Liberals say this will be disastrous for our environment, but they cannot provide any specific examples of why. Joining me now to debate this from ClimateDepot.com and the climate realist documentary Climate Hustle, Mark Morano, and the executive director of Climate Action Campaign, Nicole Capritz. Nicole, Mark, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
All right, Mark, let me turn to you first. You know how I stand on this issue, that I'm not opposed to the idea that humans influence climate change or influence our environment, but I need to have the scientific evidence. I need to have the numbers behind it. So let me pose you this question first. If liberals cannot tell us the exact degree to which our actions or our carbon emissions even impact the climate, then I would argue that their policies aren't based off of science, and if they're not, why should I give them my money?
That's a sound, logical way to look at it. This is first of all, a cost-benefit analysis. What Donald Trump did this week in Washington
is that? Yikes.
Was it's ringing, meaning my phone on, but it's on airplane. I don't think that would do it.
Is it on the speaker?
No. I mean, it's on, meaning the power is on, but I have it all off.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, can you count 1 through 10?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, is it better? Is it? Okay, great. No problem. All right.
Our News from the Hill segment tonight, President Trump signed an executive order this week rolling back Obama-era climate change regulations. Trump initiated an immediate review of the Clean Power Plan, which restricts greenhouse gas emissions at coal-fired power plants. Liberals say this will be disastrous for our environment, but they cannot provide any specific examples of why. Joining me now to debate this from ClimateDepot.com and the climate realist documentary Climate Hustle, Mark Morano, and the executive director of Climate Action Campaign, Nicole Capritz. Mark, Nicole, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Mark, let me turn to you first. You know where I stand on this issue, that I'm not opposed to the idea that human activity impacts our climate or our environment, but I need the proof, I need the numbers, I need the science behind it. I'm very numeric in that way. And my question to you then is, if liberals cannot tell us, and liberal politicians, I guess, if liberal politicians can't tell us exactly the degree to which our actions, even our carbon emissions, impact the climate, what makes them think that they're basing their policy on science?
And that's a very good basis, Liz. They're not basing it on science. For instance, what Donald Trump did this week in Washington was based on science, on this basic cost-benefit analysis. The EPA climate regulations would not impact global CO2 levels. Therefore, overturning them will not impact the climate, no matter what you think about the science of carbon dioxide. So on that level, it's very, very simple science. There's no impact whether you overturn the regulations or keep them in place. It's pure symbolism when it comes to the climate. And in terms of how they try to project, the United Nations and other scientists have tried to put different numbers and model-based scenarios on what the human contribution to current temperature and extreme weather is. And they can't do it. The best analysis I saw was by Dr. Fred Singer, a climatologist, who said humans do contribute to climate change, but you can't distinguish the human impact from natural climate variability. And that includes on sea level, which has been rising for 10,000 plus years with no acceleration,
right,
with temperature, with polar bears, with extreme weather, which is not getting worse. It's just not there to quantify, and government can't legislate a new climate.
Right. I love how you never miss an opportunity to put the word polar bear into our conversation. I appreciate that about you, Mark. Nicole, let me turn to you and let me ask you the same question, just phrased slightly differently. When we look at the past decade or 2 decades, a lot of the predictions from climate change scientists have not come true. We were supposed to have lost, I believe, the polar ice caps by the year 2014. We still have them. They haven't melted here. What do you think of Trump overturning these EPA regulations? I mean, if the predictions aren't accurate, how can we base policy that impacts our livelihoods, our money, our taxpayer status, businesses, if it's not based on science?
I mean, the truth of the matter is that 97% of the international scientific community agrees that climate change is a crisis and we must address it. And it's unfortunate that there are some folks that are politically motivated to use misleading tactics to give off the impression that there's not consensus in the scientific community, but there absolutely is. So unfortunately, what this regulation does, that this action of the president does, is it takes us a step backward. We have an opportunity in this country to pivot, to have a 21st century economy so that we can be competitive internationally. And unfortunately, we're going back in time and using energy sources that are finite when we have a free, infinite resource in the sun and in wind and in geothermal that will create clean energy jobs, that will improve our air, that will clean our water and make sure that we have jobs for everybody moving forward.
And Mark, respond to that, because I mean, she makes a valid point. If 97% of scientists all have a consensus that climate change not only is happening, but it's caused by humans and that it's a crisis, I mean, we do need to do something to address it then.
Well, there'd be two things. If that were true, then the question is, can you legislate the climate? The answer is still no. But to answer the 97%, the UN lead author, Dr. Richard Toll of the United Nations Climate Panel, actually did an analysis of the claimed 97%. And he said the number was quite literally pulled from thin air, that the number in 97% just crumbles when you touch it. It is a farcical, nonsensical number that has no basis in statistical facts. In fact, one of the analysis actually showed it wasn't even 97 scientists that they based the claim on. It was 75 anonymous scientists, we still don't know their names, that they're claiming 97%.
Well, let me interject if I can.
And just a real brief... Sure.
Doesn't it make sense, though, regardless of whether you believe it's 97% or 96% or 95%, that we pivot our economy to compete internationally with China, who's moving toward a clean energy future? Isn't that exactly where the jobs are? Shouldn't we be growing our economy in a new direction based on a free, infinite resource called the sun? I mean, it doesn't make sense to dig and drill deep into the ground to pull out dead fossil fuels and burn them when we have this free resource that can create clean air and clean water, which are embedded. That's exactly what American families and American values is based on, the freedom to have clean air and clean water.
And Mark, go ahead, take it away.
Well, first of all, it's nice. Sure, it's nice to see you're not a sun denier in terms of, apparently the United Nations and many of the climate activists deny the role of the sun in natural variability. They downplay it. But in terms of energy, in 1908, 1907, we had about 85% of our energy coming from carbon-based energy. In 2017, it's about roughly the same, maybe a little over 80% of carbon-based energy on a global level. It hasn't changed much. And there's nothing wrong with pursuing alternative energy. I'm sure, Nicole, you're a committed climate activist and you're passionate about what you believe. There's nothing wrong with solar, wind, these forms of energy. But at the same time, don't ban carbon-based energy before it's time or for no reason at all based on climate fear.
The reason
if you believe in these energy policies, you should sell them on their merits, not on climate fear. Coal, oil, gas, we are now unleashing American energy. The best way to compete internationally is to unleash American energy, and China is building coal plant after coal plant after coal plant. Using them as a model is kind of silly.
Actually, they're doing just the opposite. They're investing in renewable technologies because they see what lies ahead, and who's going to be the leader in the free world is going to be the economy that transitions to clean energy. So it makes no sense, again,
and we've done that.
To be dependent on a fossil fuel that is finite, that is going to run out, versus using technologies like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and all these innovators. We have Apple, we have Google. Anheuser-Busch just announced that they're going to 100% clean energy. I mean, this is the future. This is where our visionaries are telling us we need to go. So why would we not give opportunities to the American people to have those kind of clean energy job opportunities instead of staying stuck in the past and letting them know that we are saying we are not going to compete in the international economy.
Right, and let me jump in here for 1 second, if you don't mind, and that's to ask. I don't disagree actually with what either of you are saying in a sense. But my question would be, turning to these different kinds, these renewable energies, not coal, not oil, not drilling, shouldn't that be left to the free market then to decide whether that's worth it now instead of the government coming in and saying, no, you're not allowed to do that?
And in fact, that's what we're seeing. And in fact, that's what you're going to see. So a lot of folks actually say that what the president did was symbolic to help his billionaire friends that are clinging on to the past and old technologies. And instead, solar is actually competitive with these older technologies, and these actions that the president took are going to have zero impact in the free market.
And Mark, we're almost out of time, but go ahead, last word.
Yeah. Sure. The thing that gets me about Nicole's whole position is no one's against this solar and wind. If it's that profitable, it's as Al Gore says, there's just billionaires and millionaires waiting to be made on all this renewable energy. Then fine, invent something, sell it at Walmart. People can go to Walmart, buy a solar panel, get off the grid, and voila, we've achieved Nicole's vision of the future. But the bottom line is we need coal, we need oil, we need gas. That's what's powering America, that's what's powering China, that's what's what needs to power the developing world. It's a fantasy to think that somehow because we're unleashing regulations on America, that somehow we're going to hinder solar and wind. Fine, there are technologies there. Obama administration and the Bush administration, and I'm sure Trump can't stop it.
Unfortunately,
billions of dollars flow for all of these renewables, so there's no reason they can't thrive if they want to.
Unfortunately, the market has been rigged for so long towards these older technologies, keeping us stuck in the past that we're not economically.
The market's been rigged by subsidies to renewables.
So the question really for all of us is that what kind of freedom do we want in our country? Do we want the freedom to have clean air and clean water and clean energy jobs? Well, we have to fight for that. We have to invest in that. That's where we want to spend our time and attention. And so to allow for pollution to continue, you have to remember too, there are immediate public health impacts.
Right, and guys, I hate to interrupt this because this is a fantastic debate. My answer to your question, Nicole, is I want the freedom to be able to do what I want to do. I want freedom from the government. We'll have to pick this up for round two, perhaps next week, guys. Mark, Nicole, thanks for being here.
Thank you.